crying in his mug of children's blood. The wind is howling, something in the heavens far above. I don't know what it's saying, but it's shivering my skin, like a siren calling from a place that I have never been, and never wanna go. But Satan Yahoo's been there, so he would surely know. Satan Yahoo's right at home, where horrors walk the night, where the darkness is like ink and there's not a drop of light. Get me to the harbor, get me to the sea. I wanna watch the ships come in, Palestine go free. I know that they can't do it, they don't have the clout, but surely God is watching, God will see him out. It's a terrible injustice, like that man who owns the town, who owns the politicians, and no one can bring down. He's laughing at your outrage, he smiles when you cry, he mocks you with his laughter and tells another lie. Like the last one that you heard, each one is more outrageous, each one is more absurd. Oh, he is right at home in the dreams of fallen kings. All that he's created was a world of broken things. Get me to the harbor, get me to the sea. I wanna watch the ships come in and Palestine go free. I know that they can't do it, they don't have the clout, but surely God is watching, and God will see him out. He tramples what was beautiful, what he could never be. The troll who made that special fear to frighten you and me. God sent him to confuse us about what we think is real. He's at his greatest power when we don't know what to feel. Love will bring him down, love will bring him low. Even now he shakes with fear, yes, he knows his end is near. Get me to the harbor, get me to the sea. I wanna watch the ships come in and Palestine go free. I know that they can't do it, they don't have the clout, but surely God is watching, and God will see him out. Which way did he come in? God will see him out. Which way did he come in? God will see him out. Oh, which way did he come in? God will see him out. God will see him out. God will see him out. God will see him out.
The views expressed in the following show are of the host, the guest, and the callers. The content of the following show, its accuracy, authenticity, and the ramifications of the use or application of said content is the responsibility of those speaking and listening, not the broadcast medium.
And now, live from Chicago, here is the Black Knight of Talk Radio, James Arthur Yancek.
All right, we are back and we are live. Feet to the fire. I'm your host, as mentioned, James Arthur Yancek. That's the Czech way to say it. If you're in Chicago, it's just Jancek. Anyway, we're back and we're live with Less Visible. Now, interesting is Les's readers have approached them to do a talk on this, which I thought's a great idea. If you haven't had your head in the sand, you've noticed that this year we've had 4 supernovae, either nova supernova. 4. I mean, I think I remember 1 in my rest of my life, right? We have, I think, was it 3 or 4 comets all at the same time in here? We have 3I Atlas, which is an interstellar object that could have been traveling for billions of years before it without anything until it gets here. It's here acting weird. You have, it's a solar maximum. You have huge amounts of sunspots. You have a coronal hole now that's been traveling around, intact, around the sun, what was it, 7 months? I forgot when it started. And every time it comes by, it showers the Earth with particle streams that are very, very fast. Also causes magnetic storms, which you've had geomagnetic storms a lot this time. You have volcanoes popping up. You have you have earthquakes, if I can use the old term, in diverse places. And so you start to go like, hey, what's going on here? Now, I don't know, right? These things have happened over time. It's nothing new. Crab Nebula is supernova. But it seems to me what's the significance of it is all it is happening now. And now you have wars or rumors of wars. You have Russia. Trump was going to come in and solve the war in, was it a week? And here we are now escalating higher than it was. You have Israel and Gaza just killing people, and it's okay for a few people, and it's terrible for the rest of the world. You have now them preparing to go back into Iran, and you have now the drug cartel wars going on in Venezuela. I'm very upset about that. I mean, one of my main things for Trump was to stop the war stuff. Now, he did a bunch of other stuff, but the wars are worse. I don't know what's going on, but we do have Less Visible here to talk about the signs and wonders and anything else. And God bless him, and thank you, Les, for visiting us. And here we are, Less Visible.
Good morning, James Yancek. Well, what I have to say about the comets and all this unusual phenomena is probably going to be a disappointment to a lot of people who probably hoping I would talk about space aliens or any manner of different things. Space aliens are reality. They are around. Whether they're set to make an appearance anytime soon, that's outside of my purview. But here is what I do know. The Avatar is coming. And as the Avatar approaches, people are going to be, well, let's say it this way. It's going to get increasingly more chaotic because he's coming here to balance the scales. But before he can do that, everything must be thrown into an exaggerated disorder so that people can see with clarity what's been going on, if they have been so dumbed down that they haven't tumbled to it yet. And so everything has to sort of spiral out of control. So I talk often about the spindle and the rim. The spindle is the place in the center where the record or existence sits upon the record player. And the closer you get to the spindle, the calmer and more serene it is. The further you get away from the spindle, the more chaotic and outrageous it gets. Well, as the Avatar approaches, people are going to be drawn either to the spindle or to the rim. But in order, as I say, to balance things, because that's what he comes here to do, the Avatar. He comes for 2 main purposes. One is to restore order, set things in balance. The other is to punish and reward. And so what you're seeing now with all of this phenomena is the effect of the Avatar's influence. well, you see the sun in the sky. The avatar is coming from the sun, and you can surely think of him as having the power of the sun. Okay. So the sun's rays come from 92 million miles away. So however distant he may be right now, he's also present. He's right here because his influence is here, and his influence is impacting cosmogony and the entire planetary order and everything else, and especially the sun from which he's emerging. You might think of all this sun action as being trumpets proclaiming his coming. This is the stuff that precedes him. And this, to my mind, is exactly why all of this is happening. And it's all in order, and it's all on time because it's all on a schedule.
Well, I do like the idea of the avatar causing this rather than aliens. So I'm with you there. But yeah, I can't help but feel it that I've been kind of studying. I don't want to say studying, that's too strong of a word, but I've been following maybe the whole eschatology thing since the 70s. And I've watched how people took prophecy. Would be biblical prophecy and plug it in along the time. And, and it didn't work out. It was, but would be the way it was. But now as I look at these things now, it's kind of just, I mean, it's unprecedented in history. One of the things I noticed when Jesus was talking about the return and all that was he mentions these things, but he says, well, these things must happen, right? So I take it to mean like they're going to be here, but it's going to be significant. And I don't know, I guess it could get more significant, but, and then the wars things really bother me. So the $1 million question is, so like, when is the avatar going to show up? I mean, I know it's sooner than later, but can you just broach maybe how soon and versus how later?
Well, I can tell you directly how no one knowing when he's showing up applies exactly to Scripture and the reality of the situation. No man knoweth the hour of his coming. He comes like a thief in the night. So I would say he's closer than people think, but no one's got any exact dates. However, the fact that you're seeing all this phenomena and everything indicates that it's close. It's going to be happening fairly soon because you don't set up all this extravaganza. You don't bring out the high-kicking dancers and all the rest of that if the main act is not in the dressing room yet. Okay? So all of this is the preliminary. This is the warm-up. Okay? This is the opening act. Okay? And then he comes in. So it's very close. Now, I was listening to a scientist not long ago who gave a very detailed analysis scientifically and spiritually about what's taking place now. And he said October 30th, and he had the receipts. He had facts and figures. I wish I could remember who it was now. If I can find it, I'll reprint it in one of the coming posts. But he was pretty, he was credible. At first I was looking at him and I thought, I hate to say this, but it's the mind. It wasn't me. It was going, right. Who is this dingbat? But then as I was listening to him, I went, oh, wait a minute, Visible. Don't let the mind react and do this kind of thing, because this guy actually knows his stuff. And he did, but he, like many scientific types, the wild hair, the glasses, and like the disordered look. It's like many astrologers are like that. Their hair is going everywhere. They got a crazed look in their eyes because, they're trying to have a 360-degree perspective, which is impossible unless you're in the spindle itself. So, but now they have cameras that do that. So, yeah.
I actually, when you were talking, I was going to come back and say, I think he's in the green room. We're waiting.
Exactly.
Right.
See?
Yeah.
Sitting next to you, apparently.
Pardon me?
Sitting next to you, apparently.
Whoa. Hey. So this one guy I've been following on YouTube, his name is Stefan Burns. He is a geophysicist, but he also ties in astrology, the energies, the alignments. It's kind of interesting to see that all diverging. And so a lot of the data I've just told you about what's happening has been following him. He's mentioning all these things going on. So that's somebody I might mention. People want to look up. One of the things that struck me when Jesus was talking about the return was that no one knows the day, the hour, and all that. Not even the Son.
Exactly. So right.
He doesn't. At that, the Christian churches over the years said, "Well, at that time he was still a human, but now he knows." And I'm thinking, I'm thinking it makes sense to me that God, the Father, Creator, would be the one who knows, because God is both inside and outside of everything. I mean, he's the beginning and the end all at the same time, so he would know. But the players, if I can use that phrase, won't know, because if they did know, and then Jesus said this, then they would repent and change their ways, but it would be a superficial repenting, This way you get caught with your pants down, so to speak. And I think that's kind of the point. What do you think about the world is really turning against what's going on in Gaza, and Netanyahu seems to be on a world tour to try and cheer people up and get people to follow, and it doesn't seem to be working. And so now I'm concerned with the upcoming potential re-attack on Iran. It seems like, and if Iran and Russia do fight back, well then, that's radio checking in, then I think we're in trouble. But what do you got to say about all that?
Well, Satan Yahoo, there's a lot going on with him that is not publicly noticeable. Let me just say he's in a panic. Now, I don't know if you noticed the latest, but Trump has brought him to the table and ordered him to stop the bombing in Gaza. And he has Hamas at the table. But you know how that usually goes. But anyway, this is the most positive looking thing in a long time. Since the beginning, nothing's looked this positive. Whether Satan Yahoo will take the opportunity to bomb all the players when they get together for negotiation, I don't know, because he's a slippery little reptile. And but the whole world is up in arms now, and something has to be done. They hired all these influencers, millions and millions of dollars. They shot Charlie Kirk. There's all kinds of things they're trying to do to control the narrative and to stop the reaction. They can't do it. You can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. This is a done deal. The world knows. And furthermore, this is the Avatar's doing. So no one's going to be able to stop it. Everything that's going on, see, I see everything in this context, in the context of, well, Jesus returning, if that's your format, the Mahdi coming, if that's it, Maitreya or Kalki, depending on whether you're a Buddhist or Hindu. Suffice to say, he is the one that all religions are founded on. That's why I always use the phrase Krishna Christ. Krishna Christ. There's a reason why those two words are very similar. So anyway, he's coming regardless of the outfit you think he's going to be wearing. And as he is affecting every single event, no matter how seemingly superficial or how minuscule. He is affecting every single event that is going on in the world. So they may want to try to do things over there in Israel, but their days are numbered. Israel's over. I can emphatically state this. I know this for a fact. They're done. Israel is ended. And if they attack Iran, Iran will wipe them off the map. This I can also assure you of. And they don't need Russia to help them. They had Israel on the ropes, and Israel cried out to Big Brother, wah! And that's when that bombing and other stuff came in. Now, but they're at the height of arrogance. They cannot be restrained. Like that great quote that says, "Those whom the gods would destroy, they first drive mad." Well, him, Ben Gvir, Schmutrik, and the rest of these insane fascist Nazis, okay, they are over the top with their arrogance and their pride. They just can't believe that anyone could stand up against them. And so it's a bridge too far. It's the grasp and the reach scenario. they're going to overextend themselves and they're going to perish. And that's what I have to say about it. It's a fait accompli. Now, whether some kind of divine negotiation comes in, whether they're to be spared, I really doubt it. But whether they're to be spared this because reasonable heads are prevailing, well, that's something else. But if things continue as they are, and we're dealing with mad dogs here, if things continue as they are, they're going to get it. And I mean, they're really going. You heard what they did to Greta, right?
Yeah. Well, I heard that they aborted it, but that's all I heard. I didn't hear what happened after that.
No, they dragged her by her hair off the thing and took her to this Kidderot prison where they keep the terrorists, and they beat her up and they made her kiss the Israeli flag. They videotaped all of this. And
oh, really?
They're presently torturing some. I mean,
I'm not a fan of her. I'm not a fan of her, but I do like what they're doing.
And neither
with this.
am I. But
and that's ridiculous.
She's a little pumpkin head, and her parents speak very much of the disorder that she actually is. But let's say she's got some balls. Yeah. So I appreciate her in that regard. I'm not anti-Greta. She's just from a different planet than I am.
Right.
And but Ben Gvir is at that prison, you see, and he's this radical sleazebag. Okay, he's like a little smaller Randy Fine, and he's frothing at the mouth about making them pay. We're going to punish them. We're going to show them what we do to terrorists. What they're doing is showing the whole world how crazy they are, and this keeps going and going and going. Right. There's only one mind. There's one mind. I don't care that everybody runs around thinking, well, I'm this personality and I am this person that I think that I am, apart and different from you. And I don't care what anyone thinks about that. There's one mind. And the deeper teachings of ageless wisdom and the higher octave of every religion affirms this fact, okay? And it's a basic tenet of Buddhism and of Hinduism and the other ones. And if you go into Sankhya, you find corroboration for all of this. There's one mind. And when that mind starts to hum behind specific concepts or ideas, because everyone's getting aroused about it, change comes, because that mind is the mind of God. And in many ways, each of us is a particle or a part and portion of God. And when these parts and portions of us come together, they create a far greater force than the individual. And so now they are impacting vibrationally. And let me get into a little metaphysics here. Vibration is everything. Everything is vibrating. That is the basic common denominator of all form, all things. So when things start to vibrate a certain way, because a whole bunch of people are in the chorus, like a world version of the Mormon Tabernacle, and they want all these voices joined together, that's a force, and it's directed at Israel.
Also, I heard something that I found interesting was Pakistan, who is a nuclear nation, made a statement. They said, our bomb is an Islamic bomb. Mm-hmm. So the thought is that there's been tag teaming going on between Pakistan and Iran.
Oh, yeah, they said they could give them one.
Yeah. So.
And what? North Korea offered one.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny how when you look at the board, there's like no good guys, right? There's just less bad guy. There's bad and less bad. So when you look at all the governments, I don't side with any governments because all governments are evil. Well, my definition of evil is the exploitation of the innocent regardless of what benefits them for the people who are running it, right? So all governments do this, and it's a battle between less bad and bad, and the less bad and bad is even relative depending upon how you look at it. So I see all this coming, and I'm like, oh, wow. And everybody is used as a purpose for the divine. And I don't mean used in a sense like evil will use innocent for their purposes. I mean, like, it's like everybody's got free will. You have plenty of teachings throughout thousands of years of what is evil and what is good. You're making your choices. And if you go down that road, it will pull you down or pull you up the road, And now we're seeing kind of the results of it.
Lao Tzu says, a government is best when the people barely know it exists. Okay? It should be shadowy and hidden away, but it's not. Ours is very much to the front. You see, governments, after a while, could conspire or aspire to become a living thing. Okay? And their reach encroaches and becomes greater and greater and greater. And we're presently in the West in a state where fascism is when corporations control the government, okay? And where fascism is very much becoming a specter. And the one place you can really see this is with the hedge funds. The hedge funds are trying deliberately to destroy the middle class. They're contacting every veterinarian in the country. They want to buy up their influence and their being so they can raise the prices. They bought up so many of the trailer parks and raised the prices. They're fixing it up now to where they don't sell houses with the land included. They then own the land and they're buying up all of these houses. Well, there's all of this going on, but this is a direct effort of the hedge fund and these lawyers and psychotic individuals who say, where can we make more money here? Where can we squeeze the rock? And that's exactly what they're doing. And they're getting into every area, food, shelter, the elements. They now just did a thing in Minnesota where they can buy up the utility companies and control the power. That's their next thing. So these hedge funds, and they're all composed of the usual suspects, the Larry Finks and the rest of them, the Schwartzmans, Blackstone, and the rest of these guys. This is all another conspiratory effort on the part of the synagogue of Satan. And now it's gotten ridiculous. What they are doing is just insane. And that's why this whole health costs have gone up. That's why they're all astronomical through the insurance companies. It's the hedge funds. They're behind every bit of this. And, they run the government. They have the power. They have the money.
Well, on the hedge fund type thing, I'm noticing around here, people have sold their houses, and who's buying them are turning around and renting them.
Exactly.
And the rent, I mean, I say I own my house, but I'm paying the bank for my house. Okay, so as long as I pay the bank, it's my house. But my cost to live here, as far as taxes, mortgage, and all that stuff, that's cheaper. I couldn't even rent my own house if I had to rent my house.
Mm-hmm.
It's. I can't know how people do it. I mean, I'm a truck driver, right? So I go into use the bathroom in the truck stop. You see the stuff that they're selling. A protein drink, $5. A protein drink, $5. And people are paying for it. You go out to eat. I bought a pizza for Lucinda the other day, a pineapple pizza. It was on sale, special unbelievable sale for $10 for a pizza. And that's on sale. It's $20 regularly. How do people go out and buy this stuff? That's why I see everything imploding, because at some point...
It's the hedge funds again. They're doing this. It's the goose with the golden egg, too. Yeah. They're in perfect position to make plenty of money. But see all these billionaires? It's gotten excessive. They're grabbing at everything they can get. And as I say, they're destroying the middle class. You don't have a society without the middle class. They are the bones of any culture, any civilization. A prosperous middle class, a prosperous country. Without it, well, you're going to the earth version of hell.
Yeah, I think they're going back to the good old days of serfs. You got the kings and
feudalism.
Aristocracy, and then you got everybody else doing a job. They're going back, oh man, those were the good old days. When we got everything and they got nothing.
Well, just like the Magna Carta in 1215, which was set up where the nobles all came to compel the king to take his foot off their neck. Okay. we got another one of those coming now. But in this case, it's the brotherhood of humanity. And that is what is coming. And that is the force the Avatar is bringing. That is what he's going to use to counterbalance all of these excesses. Now, the greed has reached a point where it's insane, and they just want more and more and more. And once again, let me mention, those whom the gods would destroy, they first drive mad. So instead of being satisfied with already more than they will ever spend, okay, they have to have more. It's what I call the Sierra Madre flu.
Sierra Madre flu? What's that?
Treasures of Sierra Madre, Humphrey Bogart. Yeah. Okay, it's the Sierra Madre flu. It's this unbridled greed. And then what happened at the end of the film? Okay, yeah.
So I guess what I see is everybody wants more, right? So there's this material. If it's like, as I mentioned earlier, you're going to be drawn harder and faster toward what you're going to. So it's for the good too. People follow God, they're going to be drawn to God. And I think it was you who said this, but if not, I'm sure you agree that the end game for materialism is insanity.
Yes.
Because materialism ends. I mean, we die, the earth dies. I mean, there's an end to it, right? So if you're gone toward materialism, and to me, the ultimate falsity is this whole idea of surviving in a computer, like downloading into a computer and living on. Yeah. It's ridiculous. Now, I was going to ask earlier, let me ask you this. What about this AI stuff? I'm real suspicious of it in terms of, again, prophecy, talking about the image of the beast, if I can use that. The term image is very important. I looked at the words, and it's not like a picture. It's like a copy of. And I had a guest on years ago talking about a clone and all that, which makes sense. But now with AI and everything, you could make a copy of a personality, and it can be used to govern, let's say, in its physical absence.
Terminator. Well, now see, AI, it's good and it's bad. It's determined by the intention of the person wielding it.
Absolutely.
Okay? Yeah. So let's look on the positive side. If you look on the negative side, because of appearances, and appearances are fundamentally a lie, and also appearances are how the world was. They're always how the world was. Appearances never can keep up with the moment or keep up with the changes that are actually taking place within the moment, okay? And so as a result, people on the ground, people in the delusion of the manifest world, they're seeing things how they were. But this is all changing now. And it's not going to go the way these people scrambling for control right now want it to go. Like, for instance, Israel. It wasn't created as a Jewish homeland, okay? It was created to give sovereign rulership to a criminal class. So once they have their own nation, they also have a haven for criminals. So they can travel all over the world and do all this criminal enterprise. They can always run back to Israel. And they also have this dual national situation going on. Okay. So they bring the lawmakers over there. Now let's understand the tech as it exists is way past anything you hear about, like nanotech. Let's just consider this possibility, this idea. They just had 250 lawmakers or 150, whatever it was, brought over to Israel. Let's say they have this nanotech that they can release into a room when they're sleeping that goes right into their breathing and can then take them over. Yeah, they have nanotech that can do this. So once again, now I'm gravitating into the negative. But here's the point. All of these efforts they're making, everything that they are doing is going to turn against them. Because as the avatar gets closer, his influence precludes the success of any of these things happening. They're just not going to, okay? So there's going to be some really spectacular failures coming. The avatar is going to clean up the whole mess. He's the new sheriff coming to town. He's coming to clean up Dodge. And well, that's where it stands. Now, I don't know if you notice this about Israel too. They need more organs, okay, than any other people on earth. The organ transplant thing happening over there is insane. All right.
Actually going inside them, or brokering it?
Well, they're brokering. They're getting these organs. Yeah, going inside them.
Wow.
They have to replace these organs. All their organs are failing. Now, why would that be? Well, okay, I don't want to get into the details of that right now, but I can just say anyone who thinks about it a little bit will figure it out. And also, whenever people are possessed, and especially by reptilian intelligence or mind parasites, because those are some of the aliens that are among us, okay, the body becomes like a stolen car. And they, what do these joyriders do? They drive it at high speed. They go off road. They do wheelies with it. They're spinning around all over the place. They burn the thing up. They burn it out if they don't wreck it in the process. And they created the killer vaccines, okay, as part of the replacement effort and the population reduction. This is all one of their creations. And what's in the vaccines? Nanotech. But always remember that what you know about this is a lot less than's actually there, because just like the appearances, it shows how it was, or what you're told. They're telling you about how it was, not how it is.
It's another thing that popped in my mind when I saw Trump on there talking with Pfizer about how they're going to roll back prices. And Pfizer was we're proud to do this stuff. And first thing that came to my mind is they're trying to do penance. They're trying to do stuff up front to try and get out of what was behind. And they're like, we'll help you. We'll take the price. Why didn't you do that 10 years ago, right? Now you're doing it, trying to come up with a good PR look because of the abominations that were done with the whole COVID stuff.
Well, Trump has just said to him in this latest iteration of what's going on, you've blown it. The whole world is turned against you, but we can turn it around and people will come to like you again. Just do this and that. Okay. And then you have all these influencers and everyone is spending hundreds of millions of dollars to control the narrative. None of it's working. It's the influence of the avatar again in the mind of humanity. It's the awakening. People are seeing through it. So,
it's funny. I'm not that big a deal. Years ago I had the radio show and the syndicate and all that. Now I'm kind of just cruising, right? Do what I want to do when I want to do, and you're one of the ones I want to have. But I've been getting an uptick in people saying, "Hey, hi, I've been following your show for years, and I like how you're doing it, and I think we got some business proposals that'll help you." One after the other, almost identical phrasing. I don't even talk to them. I just delete them because what comes to me is these are trying those influencer types or want to do something. And maybe there's a good deal in there. I don't know. My thing is what I'm doing here is a spiritual thing, the search for truth and love of God and all that. I don't want money. Of course, I'm not getting it, so that's good. But I don't want the temptations. I don't want to have to deal with it. I want to be able to do what I want to do when I want to do it, and God has provided to do that. So I feel very comfortable with that, and I just blanketly just say no to all these people. I don't even respond. I just delete it.
There's a story I just saw that you will find very interesting how it dovetails with what you just said. There was this hedge funder down in Mexico, probably around Cabo, where the fishing is so great. And this Mexican had come in from his boat, and he had a bunch of good-sized yellowfin tunas on the boat, which are worth quite a bit. I love ahi is my favorite fish to eat. Anyway, the hedge funder guy goes to him and he goes, "Well, how long did it take you to get these fish?" And the guy says, "Well, not very long." He says, "Well, I got an idea." He says, "Well, what do you do with the rest of your time and all?" He goes, Well, I take a siesta with my wife every day. I go out and play guitar with my friends at the club. We eat some really good meals, and it takes care of all of our needs. And the guy says, well, I can fix you up with a really good idea here. We're going to start to build up an industry here for you. And the next thing you're going to have a whole bunch of boats and yada, 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 yada. And the guy says, well, how long is it going to take? He says, well, 10 or 15 years. And then, well, you can siesta with your wife every day, and you can go out and play guitar with your friends at night. And you see, It goes right back to where they were in the first place. I mean, so really, what is the point here? You spend all this time trying to get to a place, the life you were going to be living doesn't happen.
Yeah. Yeah. And what I've done is, and, for example, we were on talking with you about these cats I had around here, and I needed to do something about it. And boom, some of the people donated money. I found a place called me who took the cats. It took effort and stuff, but it worked out. And that's what I find, that you get what you need. And if you desire what you need, you get your desires. If you desire what you don't need or what harms you, to get those, it takes you to harm yourself to get them, and then ultimately, it's just a fake type of thing at the end. So I've been more satisfied, I guess, with less, so to speak, in recent times, because of the peace it brings by not worrying about stuff. It's for me, my own personality, it takes work to not worry about things. So that's where meditation comes in.
It really depends on what your relationship with God is, how close you are to the spindle, how close you are to the rim. Because if you start wanting what's bad for you, and the closer to the rim you get, that's all that you want, then God's position on where you're at, because of where you're at and what it takes to get you where you belong, is going to use you for the purpose of demonstration. He's going to make a point to you and of you, okay? Because that's the best he can do under the circumstances, because of the distance you have put between him and yourself. But if you're closer to the spindle and moving in that direction, well, he has other alternatives then, okay? He can protect you from wanting the wrong thing because you're not aware of what the implications of it all are, and direct you to a better thing, or just not provide for you the things you want because you don't really want it in the first place, and provide you with the thing you actually need. So really, you are so advantaged by being closer to God than you are further away from God. That's why I say the greatest commandment is the best working template for how to run your life as an actual philosophy, as an actual system that you can apply. Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, with all thy soul, with all thy strength, and with all thy mind. Because doing that, take care of every other need you could possibly have, brings you closer to God, allows God then to do for you everything that you really need done, and also shows you the difference between what you want and what you don't want, not what slipped into your mind and went, oh, check that out, because that's what the mind does. See, it's a monkey. It runs around snatching shit and going, oh, look over here. And it gets a dog of desire involved at the same time. It gets the dog barking to distract you, because the dog's going, I want, because it's the appetite end of it, see? And the machination end of it, which is the monkey mind, is doing the other. You got to meet the organ grinder. This is what you got to do. And I don't mean the satanic dark side that runs the puppets of the world, that has all the world's leaders on the strings and everything, but I mean the real organ grinder, the person who has trained the bear and can make the bear dance. Is just as resident in you as the person who wants to teach the dog to attack, or wants to teach the monkey to do bad and vulgar things, because the monkey is going to do whatever it's it doesn't really have a moral sense, the mind, okay? That's the higher octave of the heart does that. But it can't do that if the dog and his eyes are around going and licking its privates. You have to raise the bar. You have to raise the bar, and how you do that is proximity to God. The more you can draw God into your life, the more you activate the Godhead that arises and gives you perfect sanity, gives you clarity. And how does that come about? Through balance. Balance is what provides that. Equilibrium is the key and the secret of existence. You got that? You got it all, because what is the product of equilibrium? Harmony. And then what comes from that? Serenity, tranquility. So materialism, it does in a direct relationship to insanity. One might say they're both the same, but also it equates directly with atheism and Satanism. They're all the same thing. Materialism is satanic worship. That is what materialism is. Mm-hmm. And also because of the objects and everything projected outward, it's an atheistic perspective.
Now, this is what I've talked with myself, and I'd like to get your, it works for me, but I'd like to get your opinion in general, right? One of the problems I think we have with us is the physical person, me, right? The physical part, right? You have the physical, you have the spirit, and you have the soul, right? So one of the problems on the physical is like the physical brain knows like, hey, I'm going to die. It's going to end someday. So you can kind of deny it. You can put it off. You can go into materialism. You can come up with this stuff. You can come up with ego-based religion that my ego will live forever. What I've done is talk to myself and said, look, there's flaws in your physical body, right? In your mind. That's part of being on earth, all right? You're not. What's going to happen is you, the physical person, is coming with me, the spirit, but you're going to lose all those negativities. So when you pop out, let's say at death, it's a wonderful thing because you're still there, but all the physically based negative detraction stuff, whether it be, if you're abused as a kid or something, all that stuff drifts away. It dies with the body, but you go along into, and I think if you really believe that, there's a relief in the physical side of you that it makes it easier to not go down into harmful stuff or pop out of it sooner. I don't know. What do you think about that?
Well, in the Bhagavad Gita, I think it's chapter 13. It's a chapter called The Field and the Knower. Your body is the field, and the consciousness in you is a farmer, and it plants things in the body based on what it wants to grow. And what those things are is desires, okay? So this is how you get cancers and every other kind of horrible thing that comes in the body, because you planted that there. Now, proximity to God, I have to come back to this again. God bless you, go to hell.
Thanks.
It's an old thing I say, God bless you, go to hell, because you expel the spirit. And anyway, if you're close to God, then God is the authority in you. You're not blocking him. You're not hindering his being able to do good things for you, because that's what the satanic aspect of the human personality does. It blocks God and calls itself preeminent. So as a result, it suffers all of the indignities and diseases of existence because it's going the wrong way. But through proximity with God, he immediately, the closer you get to God, starts solving every single problem you have. If you rely on him exclusively, he automatically starts fulfilling the great work in you. He refines your body. He drives all the negativity out of you. And you keep getting newer iterations of yourself until you get this solar body, which can't be harmed by the elements and which lives forever. God is your real self. That is God. I call it the higher self, okay? You have to bring the lower self into accord with the higher self. And when you do, it's because then it's taking its direction from the higher self. If it's taking its direction from the lower self, okay, because you're in the middle here, then there's the world and all that's in it, and you are subject to the vicissitudes of the push and pull, the cause and effect of existence. And sometimes that's going to feel good, and sometimes it's going to feel really bad. Okay. And as you get older, all of these things that you spend your life doing start to attack your system and your being, and you become weaker as a result, also because you are aging. So the best way to go is the other way, because in fact, you do not have to die. Okay. If you can transform, if you can get the second baptism, the baptism of fire, and you're going to be ignited by the Spirit within, you can transpose right from this physical body into the solar body. Chapter 43 in the autobiography of a yogi, Paramahansa Yogananda's guru, Sri Yukteswar, passes on. But then, a few weeks later, whenever it is, he comes back right in the physical form. Yogananda touches him and everything, but it's his solar body. He didn't die. He just went into the other body. And then he takes him on a travel log with all these different experiences. Okay. Oh, this happens, but you don't see it in the news. They don't teach it in school. People don't talk about it in their general conversations of bullshit, which is basically what the chatter is, just like chipmunks on a log. That people out there in the marketplaces where nonsense of no value whatsoever. Well, there's another way to go, but it's not announced to the world. You don't come into the world with trumpets going, bum, ba-da-dum, ba-bum. Joe Blow over here is immortal now. He's been realized. Well, that doesn't happen, but it don't mean he isn't realized. Right. It just means it's happening out of sight of the world, because the world has no control over it, can't view it, can't even see it. But you're invisible to all the bad aspects of the world and can't be touched.
Yeah,
and that's the destiny.
I actually prefer the chipmunks to some of the other chatter, but
true.
Yeah, and I think an example of that, I bring up stuff about what Christianity, what it really should teach, what Jesus said, because there's a lot of people who have either or. They have like Vedism is Satan, Christianity is correct, and that's all baloney. Jesus, when he was rose, did this same thing you're talking about.
Exactly.
Right? And that, he says, whatever, and Jesus said, and this is stuff that people don't, I think they don't focus on. Jesus says, whatever I do, you can do and more.
Exactly.
So I look at that, and I look at him as a template to follow in life.
Exactly.
Calling upon the Father, and there you go.
Exactly. And that's a fact. It's a metaphysical fact, though, you see. We live in a world where the physical facts predominate. And that's why everybody's trying cure for cancer. They've had a cure for cancer since God knows when, but it's not good for business, okay? So they run out all these charity balls where everybody's balling charity, and they steal the money. None of it goes for any decent research. They're not out there trying to do that. You shouldn't catch cancer in the first place. But you do because you're living imbalanced. And that's how it goes.
Yeah. The thing about cancer is what comes to me when I think about it is not the cure for cancer. It's to stop causing it.
Yeah.
So the food we eat is not food. What we breathe in, is not air. Water's not water. And so I think one of the big things of cancer is to stop causing it, rather, because from what I understand, the potential for cancer, all it is cells that are gone wild. It could be anywhere, anything in your body, right? So the potential is always there. It's like, don't start it.
Don't feed it.
Yeah, and of course, sugar being one of the worst things you can possibly have. And I know for my own personal self, when I went on like a keto type of a diet after a long fast, I felt the best I've ever felt in my life. But then I got ill, and I started to follow what the diet said for the illness, and it got worse and cycled around, and I'm back again. It's just amazing. It's like, you were there. What happened? You took your eye off the ball, Yeah. And so it's a warning for people that the most poisonous poisons we have are accepted. They're not necessarily like arsenic hidden in somewhere. It's just normal stuff that they didn't have years ago.
I'd like to point out that this all starts in the mind as a thought, and it's energized by the heart. There's a lower heart and a higher heart. That's where the energy for the thought and the two come together and manifestation begins to take place. And the mind is a replicating camera, okay? It keeps looking at the same images over and over again, and that reinforces the manifestation. And where does the manifestation take place? In your life or in your body. So if you just command how you think and how you feel, you never have to worry about any of these things. But I might point out right here, by the way, that sometimes in the process of getting better, you wind up feeling worse. Sometimes in the process of healing yourself, okay, you have to go through negative changes in order to eliminate. It's called purification. And in the elimination, you can be made sick again, even though you're getting better, okay? But it all starts in the mind. Control the thought, kick them out, empty your head, and they have no conduit. They have no way to manifest. Problem solved.
Yeah. It's so easy and yet hard. It's not hard if you keep your eye on it. So that's been my goal, is to keep my eye on, the divine, the divine light. It's like, to me, the sun is like a metaphor for God,
Exactly.
And I try to keep my eye on that. So the avatar is in the green room, so to speak, and the band is playing before he comes out. It would be the best time for now. And one thing I also thought of is that the people who are even supporting evil, right? They can still change. It's like there's no time until the very effect. I had a little vision. I put it up on YouTube after that, when Jesus comes, or the avatar comes, as he's walking through earth with a group of people, saints following him, when he encounters the people, evil or not, the evil people have a choice right there to change. I mean, after all the evil that was done, we'll say, right there, it's like, you can be healed. And some still refuse. And this is where I get the biblical aspect about them crying on for the stones to fall on me and hide me away from. And it's like my not that they're going to listen to me, but my thing is like, nothing is so bad that can't be fixed. You know what I'm saying? Is that God is the judge and the defense attorney. And it doesn't matter where you are. I mean, you say you're deep into, I don't know, child sacrifice or whatever. I mean, that's terrible, right? You can turn from that moment, and what will come from it is God can make good of that. From that person who's that far into it, can do so much good if they turn around.
You bring up a very interesting point, and one I was going to talk about, but it fled my mind, but God used you to bring it up, which is very interesting. He was laughing at me in my head when I tumbled to what was going on here. And Peter Dunov, in his prophecy, his final prophecy, talks about that very thing. And I have recently read from 3 or 4 different sources that when the avatar arrives, and even before that, as its influence gets progressively more and more palpable, people who you would have thought were totally lost and just could not be redeemed are suddenly going to see the light and be transformed. That's actually going to happen, what you're talking about there. And I was told far more than you might expect are going to take the cure here. Okay. They're going to go, what have I done? What? Oh my God. Because they're becoming realized. That's what the awakening does. And he's bringing the awakening. So the closer he gets, the more, because they're not totally corrupted yet. They're not like the Rothschilds or Satan Yahoo or a bunch of these other people, okay, who are so deep in that they'll crucify a child and spit in your face on the way to telling you they ain't going to change, because there is that block, okay?
Right.
That's the spiritual black block, okay? And, but there are a lot of other people, they're just deceived. They don't know any better. They think they're doing the right thing. They got convinced by people more clever than them, smarter than them, okay? But of course, if you're closer to God, that's not possible. You don't get deceived. But these are people in the world. They're under that influence, okay? They haven't spent their life trying to find God, trying to live by God's dictates. And so they're out there in the dream. But what is an awakening? An awakening is something that takes you from the dream. And so this is going to be happening, and you're absolutely correct about what you said.
Yeah, and in fact, I got, in my little vision thing, I got that number of people turning will be high. And
more than you'd expect.
And I would think also now, as you're talking about this influence coming in, one of the things that'll aid in the exposure and downfall of the evil networks here is people turning, and becoming inside informants, we'll call it. I don't know what other word to use.
Swelling the numbers, whistleblowers, the whole thing.
Yeah, right. And, of course, a lot of whistleblowers and informants were killed and stuff because they do it. But, I mean, when given the option of redemption and the realization of what you've been part of, whether you knew it or not, right, is like, what price would be too high for that redemption? If you really get it, right? And also, what happens to me is my memories come like this, right? And they do connect, but they do come like this. What comes to me about the martyrs, right? You have these people who are being burned alive, and as they're burned alive, they're singing hymns.
Yes.
All right. So the power that is there on that side overwhelms anything on this side. And so even if you were to feel the stuff through it somehow, the point is that by dealing with stuff here takes eons off dealing with it there. It's like, here's the best time to deal with the karmic stuff, the best time to do it here than in summer school, let's say. Do it now rather than have to deal with it there. So that's kind of like, but see, a lot of the Christendom is like this, yes, no. You're here, you're saved, you're there, everything's fine, and it doesn't matter what you do. And I'm thinking, no, it's Jesus, almost his entire teaching was how you do. And so that's why I've started, I don't think I talked to you about this, I started a little side thing I'm doing called Christianity, the Red Letter Edition. And I'm going through and just dealing with Jesus said and looking at the Greek and Hebrew when necessary to give context. Because you don't need the church. In fact, a lot of that church is in the way. You need the actual words. And that's why when you bring up stuff from Vedic and so like that, it's true. I mean, it dovetails right in. There's no problems. And I could see why, it's another thing I noticed was that out of all the religions in the world, even some atheists, right? They all look at Jesus and his teachings as, wise and wonderful, except Judaism. Isn't that kind of interesting how they look at him as evil, as a subversive? Every other religion everywhere, even non-religion, satanic, even admits Jesus has power. I mean, look at the demons who were pushed out. They didn't question him being Son of God, and so on. So it's just kind of interesting.
Well, the Talmudic slavers, that's what I refer to them as, they compromised Christianity way back at the Council of Nicaea. Okay, and that's when all this stuff came out and when they got into a lot of the minutiae of what Paul had to say. And they got away from the message. That's when they threw reincarnation out and the whole idea of karma, and these things were shuttled aside. They They wanted to control the truth. They wanted to control the amount of the truth, and they wanted to control the kind of the truth that you were exposed to, which ain't the truth, okay? First of all, Jesus wasn't a Jew. He certainly wasn't in that regard. And the kind of Jew that if he was that, although I believe he was a Syrian and he was also a Palestinian, I believe that it was other than that. And they framed it in such a way because they've had this victim mentality going on since, thousands and thousands of years. And one of the things they do is intrude in every religion. For instance, in modern days, if you start to go into any Buddhist organization now, a Talmudic slaver is at the head of that organization. They're running them, okay? They have a new name like Rishi or Soshi, this or that, okay? But they're a Talmudic slaver who's there in charge of it. And the same thing with a lot of Hindu operations. If you read Monkey on a Stick, which is about the Hare Krishna organization, and you see who these idiots were that took over and had these vast empires under Bhaktivedanta, okay, whom I think was a good guy. I don't have bad feelings about him. But these other idiots, and they were all many of them were Talmudic slavers as well. And they get into all these religions. They're like vermin. They're termites. And they go in there and they eat away the infrastructure of it because the whole idea is to de-authenticate what religions stand for because of who they worship, because that is who they worship. And you got to get your head right about this so you know who you're dealing with, okay? Because a lot of people don't. And then they come in, and they co-opt everything that the Palestinians had in the first place, including their DNA, which is why they closed down 23andMe, or that genetic DNA company, because it was showing that none of them were Semitic, okay? And so they have adopted. They even stole hummus and the falafel from these people, and it's all just about it. But they're a fake nation. They don't actually exist. They're nothing real there. They're a criminal enterprise. And this is all coming clear now, and people are seeing. And unfortunately, this is going to affect a lot of Jews all around the world, okay, who didn't come forward and weren't saying anything, whether they were intimidated or they were at the trough. I don't know what exactly was going on there. But the thing happens is that when materialism is in the ascendant, the people that are members of the Talmudic slavers are hugely increased. You go back into medieval times and earlier, you get these completely illuminated Jews, okay, who found the stone, who became realized, there are different periods of history, and a lot of it depends on how materialized everything was. You call certain periods of history the Dark Ages. They might not have been dark at all. They just weren't as material, okay, as what's going on here. Because you look at the cathedrals that they built, you look at the sheer artistry of God manifesting in man to these just remarkable constructions, Oh my God. So that's coming again. So the golden age is coming.
I went on a personal clarification. I, had events in my life, had a little breakdown and stuff, and I went back to square one. I started forward, And one of the things I noticed studying the Old Testament into the New Testament was that there's no written work previous to Babylon. The pre-Babylonian writings don't exist. It's only from Babylon onward, and that when you go into people like Ezra and Nehemiah, those are all Babylonian priests. And when they found the Pentateuch, they found the Ark of the Covenant, which, by the way, at that time wasn't killing anybody. So that I don't know if it became de-energized, whatever. They pulled out the writing. This is coming from the Old Testament. They pulled out the writings. No one could read it. So Ezra and Nehemiah could, and they read it, and the people were shocked because it demanded all these blood sacrifices. All those people had no clue. Now, they were there 60 years. I understand it's a generation. But how could, within that generation, how could they lose that? And my conclusion was it was never there. It was put in by the Babylonian priests and so forth. So when they left Babylon and went to build their, what's his name? What's the...
Nebuchadnezzar? Hammurabi?
No. Oh, gosh, it'll come to me. After Nebuchadnezzar died and the Persians took over, that particular leader, it'll come to me.
Darius? Xerxes?
No, that's too far. Anyway, he said he let him go and said, go build to your gods, whatever. But at the same time, in history, they found a scroll from that time. And it correlates to what was saying in the Bible, except it didn't say, go build it unto the Lord, i.e., Jehovah or whatever. It said, go build it unto Marduk. Marduk is the god of Babylon and all that. Now, he allowed him to go and do it, follow it with Ezra. All those guys left. They taught. They ended up having this magnificent killing where they had blood flowed from all these animals. And to me, that was the beginning of the current view of the blood sacrifice, including Christianity. Now, I had a guest on my show, Lionel Parkinson, who's a document verifier, who went through this on his own and went even further than me. So I just wanted to mention to the listeners now, if they want to go to holyvirus.com, I put up a website with all our interviews, plus you can download you have the chance to get a PDF of his book because it's out of print now. And I'm telling you, it only just solidified my inside leading that whole Old Testament. Now, it doesn't mean the Old Testament's wrong. You have to go through it and use the blood, to me, as a filter and look at the non-blood stuff in there. And there's great stuff throughout the whole Old Testament. But in my opinion, it was modified with this Babylonian modifier, and that's what came forward. And there's no Jewish commentaries or nothing that go back beyond Babylon. And so that's like, there's nothing before it, So that's how I look at it. And so that blood was brought into Christianity in terms of blood sacrifices. Well, you're not going to be killing innocent animals anymore. We killed the innocent Jesus to cover the sins. And it continues that whole thing. And my question was, God is God, right? God can forgive you. I mean, why does he need to kill his innocent son to forgive you? He doesn't. So that whole thing was the world trying to kill Jesus from bringing the message of God's love. And so by going along with what he says and all that stuff, yes, there's salvation and all that stuff, but it's not this say a prayer, sprinkle the blood, and you're done. You know what I'm saying? Does that sound...
Well, that's convenience. You see, that's what that's all about. That's why on Yom Kippur now you got all these Orthodox airheads running around with chicken doing this, putting the sins on the chicken. But then they probably make money selling to KFC. I don't know exactly how that works, but this is what they do. Like you got Rabbi Shmuley the Leech, the dildo rabbi, and he's saying, when is God going to apologize for what he did to the Jews? Well, that's much like the Council of Nicaea again. You see, there was a period of time where they corrupted how people understood what was real and what wasn't. And then from there, because the generations, they come and they go, certain things that are absolute lies start to become fact. Like the Holocaust, which never even happened. I mean, it did in a very limited sense. Meanwhile, they killed 60 million Russians. Meanwhile, they're totally wiping out the Palestinians. They killed all those Armenians. They killed all those Ukrainians. I mean, the amount of Holocaust that they themselves created, totally wipes out anything with the insignificant little typhus-ridden fantasy that they came up with, But this is the thing. They always got to stay ahead of the narrative. They're always bending and shifting. It's not so much how they can convince you of this or that, but if they can distract you enough so that your attention wanders off somewhere else. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. To me, your attention is the real currency on this planet. That's what's sought.
That's right.
Is your attention, your creativity, to make you a slave to creating for them, and and so on. So that's what they're doing, and they use material or infirmities as a to keep you on the treadmill and so on. So that's where if you use blood, the shedding of blood as this kind of litmus test, look what's going on in the world with the wars, abortion, the transgender stuff, they're
behind all of that.
Yeah, I mean, it's the goal here is to not only get the end result, which is blood, right? Death and blood. It's fun along the way to see how you can twist and hurt and manipulate people. And I'm going like, man, that's why when I heard, I woke up and I looked at the news and it said that Jeffrey Epstein killed himself or killed himself, whatever. The first thing that came to my mind was a vision of him like on a slab, waking up on the other side and having this giant, ugly demon right up to his face and went, peekaboo. And then he screamed this curdling blood scream that it took me about a day to get it out of me. It was terrible. And I'm thinking, like, to me, this is no matter what fun you can have there, how do you deal with that at the end of your, quote, fun? You know what I'm saying?
Well, the thing with the currency, let me point out a very interesting point here. All the Talmudic slaver holidays celebrate them killing other people, okay? And constantly on their holidays, they will start a war against someone because the god they worship demands blood sacrifices at specific intervals. And this blood is drunk by demons. This is what, they spill this blood, the demons drink it. They, in exchange, get these, what I call negative blessings. A certain power, a demonic power comes that then provides the opportunity for them to be able to hold sway over the minds of people who are only at this certain level of awareness, okay? Because if you're above it, it has no effect on you at all. And so there's currency, spiritual currency on this particular level. Then there's the other shedding of the blood, which, like of Christ, which is a higher currency. In fact, the shedding of the, symbolically or metaphorically, how you want to look at it, because there's also an argument that Christ was never even crucified, that instead Judas was mistaken for him and they crucified him instead. But the shedding of the blood of Christ, I'm not coming with either one of those arguments, but the shedding of the blood of Christ paid for the entire age. The whole last age that we had, that is the currency, the integrity of what gave the infrastructure, the spiritual infrastructure for everything that happened, good and bad after that. And now, because that's near exhausted, the same being, different persona, because a different job description exists in this particular visitation. They vary, okay, according to where on the celestial clock they come in at. And so in this particular way, he's going to come, however he does it, I don't know the details, and create a new currency for the age of brotherhood. That's what's coming. And the golden age, which indeed is coming, but which cannot come until the avatar has appeared. Okay. That is the demarcation point.
Yeah, I tend to look at the shedding of Jesus' blood as his offering to the, I don't know what to call it, the quote God that they demanded the blood sacrifices, and he says, hey, take mine. You want to sacrifice blood? Take mine. It was more like him undoing the blood bond, contractual bond with this God of the world, if you will. So now it released it. I mean, I'd look at it more as a voluntary thing than God, the Father, saying, I will kill my son for your benefit. It was God, Jesus stepping in, offering himself to that system, which
Well,
demanded
those two are
blood.
not mutually exclusive, though. Okay,
Yeah.
those two perspectives are not mutually exclusive.
Right.
There is an understanding that something that means one thing on this level means something else on this level,
Yeah.
means something else on this level, which is why when you read the Bible, and specifically the New Testament, there's a way that it makes sense in the common mind. But then in an illuminated state a little higher, suddenly the scripture means something else entirely. And Christ said, I had one teaching for the masses and one for the disciples or the apostles. Okay. And then at a higher level, there's revelation. And that's when the scripture is an actual living thing. And it's written in that fire language,
Right.
which is comes out of the Chaldean tradition.
So, I mean, that's why it's like in these times, if I don't get bogged down by my own personal fears and stuff, in these times, I'm encouraged that the solution is near. By these bad signs, if you will, are showing that the solution is near. And the people who are living in this blood world can't spend enough blood to get themselves out of their blood world rather than just simply turning. And I think that maybe what will happen is when some key people do this about face and turn, it would encourage others. It's like infectious. The energy will be infectious. Because I don't want to see a full hell or whatever. I'm not looking like, well, they're going to get their justice, because I know I got a little taste of the personal horror awaiting for stuff like that. I'd like to see everybody do what they can to not go down that road in advance. It doesn't mean that if a guy breaks in the house trying to kill me, I won't shoot him. It doesn't mean I won't do that, but you know what I'm saying. Yes. I'm trying to hoping for the best for all, the best that can be. Whatever should be shall be. I like that line from Lord of the Rings when Frodo asked the elfin princess what she would want to see happen, and she said, "What should be shall be." And I like that. That's a nice. I like that. That's built into a prayer of mine. So we're about the hour and 23 minute. Do you want to use these times for something at the end here?
Sure. Why not? To me, the most critical point that anyone can take from these conversations, or just in general from some other location, the one thing that strikes me as singularly most important is get closer to God. You get closer to God by getting closer to the spindle. How do you get closer to the spindle? You love God more. You love God with all your heart, your soul, your strength, and your mind. And why does this work for you then? Because love is the attractive force. So by doing this, you attract God, who's already very present anyway, but you attract him into the area of your awareness. Once you do this, then you see everything in a new light. You don't see the world as the world expresses itself to everybody else who's caught up in the particular hallucination or dreamscape that the world manifests. You've risen above it. And a certain amount of light starts coming into your consciousness. And the more that you open to God, the greater the stream of light that comes in. And that stream of light gets stronger and stronger, more dense. And then it can actually wash away the parameter through which it's passing, okay? So to me, everything is resolved in love God. Love God, and then you put God in a position to help you. By loving him, you open up the door to this relationship where he can come in and fix your life. And how does he fix your life? By your not hindering his efforts, by your not competing with him and getting in the way of his efforts. There's two evolutionary curves that exist. One is the real slow roundabout way that takes a real long time. The other is when you hothouse your own evolution by loving God, and you can actually live and die a great many lifetimes in one single lifetime. And not everybody has to die, but we shall all be changed. Okay? So you can actually transliterate yourself into an entirely, well, let's not mess around with words here. Love God. That's the be all and end all of everything I'll ever have to say.
I mean, my own personal thing was at one point, things going on in my life. It says, like, God, I'm ready to go, but if you got something for me to do, I'm in, right? But my request is I want to be able to see with my living flesh eyes return of Jesus or the Avatar. I want to be here for that moment. That's my prayer. Now I don't know if that's selfish or not, but I mean, I want to actually see it like from both ways, the inside and the outside. So I think that would be huge, and it's rare. I think it's rare in the cosmos, and that's kind of now. What do you think about that?
Well, I can't think I can address that in terms of the outward coming as well, because we have especially been told not to buy into that form of externals. But I will say this, the internal one, that could happen at any time. That has always been happening, and all through history, different individuals have been Christed or entered into the Christ consciousness, which is that form of Christ. The same mind that was in Jesus Christ is then in you. And that can come at any time. That doesn't depend on some date or the actual arrival of the avatar, because the arrival of the avatar is not specific to a given moment. He's going to arrive sooner in the minds of the people who are open to him, and much later, after a great deal of resistance and persistence in the mind of the people opposed to him. Yeah. So you've got time. It's not linear time. It's coming at different speeds depending on the level you're at. And if you're at the level, there's no time. He's already there.
Yeah, I could see that. I see that our time is arbitrary. It's arbitrary in the mind versus the time of God. But one of the lines I like is the fact that Jesus always used the term "the coming of the Son of Man." He didn't take it personal, like, you know, his physical absolutely return is coming to Son of Man. I always wondered about that. I studied that term "Son of Man," and I really can't get a lot of guidance from it throughout history. I mean, I think it's ambiguous for a reason. You understand it internally rather than externally. But he says that he warned people about going into the desert, going to this place and going to that place, and do signs and wonders. But he did say, as the lightning comes from the west to the east to the west, so will the coming of the Son of Man be. And that tells me it's going to be freaking obvious. You know, it's not going to be some Project Bluebeam or some person claiming and so on like that. So
principally it's a transformation in awareness. Yeah. As far as the externals go and it's actually a transforming awareness, because the awareness at one level identifies something as this, but the awareness raised like, oh, that's not what it was at all. It only looked like that. And then you raise it again and it goes, oh, right, it wasn't. See, because everything's look like what the mind tells itself it wants to see. Okay. And that's why you have to get in the mind of God, because then you see it as it is. Because otherwise you're seeing everything through the filter of the personal self. And a lot of that has to do with your astrology, the things you've gone through that develop the perspective you have, how you see things depending on what you value in this sense and in the invisible sense. So, you know, there's a tug of war going on there with that at all times. And it's just really a matter of setting yourself free. And this you get by going to God. Set yourself free from the material conditions that actually modify and qualify what you see, that put their own lens and filter over your vision. And that's why you have a slave world out here, a prison planet where people are completely, they might as well be wearing a jail jumpsuit, okay? Because their desires are whip masters over them. It's driving them on to like, I got to have this, I got to have that. But really, it's the demonic appetite, the appetite that is driving them toward this temporary conclusion. And what does it create? More appetite. So, yeah.
It reminds me of the term scales falling from their eyes.
Exactly.
So rather than seeing something permeate my physical senses, it's me opening up to seeing a larger world, spiritual world. So
there are
like
other senses.
I visualize we're surrounded by like smoke, right? Smoke and mirrors, I guess the word would be.
Yeah.
And then when that dissolves away, you see the real world. I mean, meaning the more bandwidth, I guess, if I can use a metaphor.
Exactly.
Oh, well, may it be now.
Okay. I just wanted to add, in conclusion to that,
Sure.
your physical senses exist on a bandwidth. Your physical senses are never going to see this other world. There will never be a time that your physical senses will see it. But on top of each physical sense is a spiritual sense. These flower and open when the love that, just like a plant, is feeding it the proper nutrients, then the flower comes out of the plant. And then the new sense is activated. So then you see it, and you see it everywhere and in this world as well. And you see it in everybody. You see the God in them and not the mask that is present over it. And the love of God will wear all that away, and that's what it does. So.
What's been a big teacher in my life about what love is my dog. The dog is like, you're like the everything of everything.
Loyalty and devotion.
I mean, you could kick them and then call them and they come back. I mean, it's just amazing, right? And it doesn't mean I kick them, but I'm just giving an example. So when I come home from work, that dog is like, everything in this whole dog's world right now is me walking through that door. And, sometimes I get teary because I know that God has love for us far more than that, but it does show through in an example. And I try to return that as best I can to whoever I can, and of course to God. But it's I don't know, it's quite amazing to see that. And so God bless little Molly.
Yeah.
Jack Russell, a rat terrier.
So I was the dog poet for a while.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So anyway, Les, it's been very, very good for me, and others have commented in the chat room. Good stuff, good things, good energy. It helps to, I don't know, I guess rather than get ready, it seems to be like to let go. I don't know how to put it in terms, but rather than getting ready, you're kind of just chilling. And I appreciate the time with us, and we'll continue to do this.
Sure.
And if there is stuff that you'd like to come in your mind, get in touch with me, or if your listeners have questions and they want to, this is great. I love it. You're one of the few reasons why I still even do this. So I appreciate the time, and God bless you. And I have all the links will appear for your various projects. Oh, I wanted to say one thing. I appreciate you using Substack, because I get it in my mail now in such a way that I can read it at work on my phone, because it was hard reading the websites on my phone. So the Substack thing is great, because I could it reformats to my phone. So I appreciate that personally. So, all right. I think that's it. Well, God bless you, and we'll see you next time.
Many blessings upon you and to all who see this broadcast. May God illuminate your heart and mind and lift you into the new world that's coming.